You are worth $14 million, and the man who changes your oil has no idea. Neither does your neighbor, who has asked you twice this year if business is still slow. Neither does the loan officer who once looked at your jeans a beat too long before sliding the paperwork across the desk. You drive a 2011 Tacoma with 190,000 miles on it. The check engine light has been on so long you've forgotten what it's warning you about. None of this is a disguise. This is just what $14 million looks like when nobody is performing it for an audience. It started with a broken vending machine in the break room of a tire shop in Waynesboro, Virginia. You were 26, working parts inventory, and the machine had been out of order for 6 weeks. A handwritten sign taped to the glass said, "Out of order, sorry." Nobody had bothered to take it down or fix it. Most people walked past that sign every day and thought nothing at all. You stopped and read it a second time, then asked the shop manager who actually owned the thing. Turned out nobody in the building knew. It took you 4 calls to track down the vending route operator, a 61-year-old man named Carl Dietz who was retiring and had 11 machines scattered across 3 counties, half of them broken, none of them making him money anymore because he'd stopped caring long before he stopped owning them. You bought the whole route for $2,300. Not glamorous, not even interesting really. Just a folder of paper routes, a set of keys, and a Ford Econoline van that smelled like stale Fritos. The math, once you actually sat down and did it, was almost embarrassing in how simple it was. 7 of the 11 machines just needed new bill validators, $40 a part, 20 minutes of labor. 2 needed nothing at all, just someone willing to restock them on a schedule instead of whenever they felt like it. By the end of the second month, the route was clearing $740 net every month for maybe 6 hours of your time total. You didn't quit your job. You didn't tell anyone. You just started looking everywhere you went for the next broken machine nobody else was bothering to fix. By the time you were 28, the vending route had grown to 31 machines across 4 counties, netting just under $4,000 a month, and you had developed a habit that would define the next 15 years. Whenever you drove somewhere new, you weren't looking at the buildings people wanted you to look at. You were looking at the ones nobody was looking after. That's how you found the laundromat. It sat on the edge of Staunton, a squat cinder-block building with a faded blue awning, half its machines taped off with handwritten "out" signs that looked exactly like the one that started all this. The owner, a woman named Ruth Ann Feltner, had inherited it from her father and hated everything about running it. She wanted $61,000. You offered $48,000 cash, and because nobody else had made an offer in 14 months, she took it. You spent $9,000 refurbishing 11 machines and replaced the ancient coin mechs with card readers. Net income settled at $2,100 a month after expenses. Unglamorous, boring, reliable. Then came the parking lot. A gravel rectangle behind a defunct feed store, 3 blocks from the county courthouse, bought for $22,000 because nobody wanted to deal with the drainage easement listed on the title. You didn't develop it. You striped it, put up a $5 a day pay box, and let it fill with courthouse traffic 5 days a week. Net $1,400 a month. Then 2 billboards on a stretch of Route 11 that a mattress company had let their lease lapse on. $31,000 for both structures, $2,600 a month once you released the faces to a local HVAC company and a personal injury attorney. Then, at 33, the service business. A 2-man pressure washing outfit whose owner was burning out and wanted $75,000 to walk away clean. You kept both employees, raised prices 11% because the previous owner had been chronically underpriced for 9 years, and net income jumped to $6,800 a month within 5 months. 5 asset types. 5 separate, boring, undramatic acquisitions, each one bought because you were willing to look at something broken and do the arithmetic instead of walking past it. By 35, none of it had a name. There was no company letterhead, no LLC called anything clever, just a folder, a spreadsheet, and a growing number that only you and your accountant ever saw. At a Chamber of Commerce mixer you only attended because Ruth Ann Feltner's nephew begged you to come, you met Dale Pruitt. Dale drove a Cadillac Escalade with temporary tags still in the window 8 months after purchase. Dale wore a quarter zip with his real estate group logo embroidered on the chest, though the group consisted of Dale and a part-time assistant. Dale talked for 11 minutes straight about a duplex flip that hadn't closed yet, about a boat he was thinking about a mastermind group in Miami that cost $15,000 a year to join. Dale asked what you did. You said, "Little bit of this and that," and Dale's eyes moved past you within 4 seconds, already scanning the room for someone worth his time. You let him scan. You'd learned by then that being underestimated wasn't an inconvenience, it was infrastructure. Nobody negotiates hard against the guy in the Tacoma. Nobody assumes the guy asking quiet questions about a shuttered laundromat is about to write a check. Dale would spend the next 6 years performing wealth at mixers like this one. You would spend them buying the buildings the mixer was held in. The harder test came from your cousin Megan. Megan called on a Tuesday in March, 38 years old, 2 kids, a husband whose hours had just been cut at the plant. She needed $18,000 by the end of the month or they'd lose the house. Not dramatic, not a crisis of her own making, just the ordinary math of a bad year landing on a family with no cushion. You had the number sitting in an account that wouldn't have noticed it leaving. You didn't send it. Instead, you drove up that weekend with the folder, the actual folder, the one with Carl Dietz's original vending route papers still in the back of it, and you sat at Megan's kitchen table for 4 hours. You walked her through what a note on a small piece of equipment actually looked like. You co-signed a $6,000 loan for a used pressure washer and 200 feet of hose, and you gave her the name of the HVAC company still leasing your billboard because they were always looking for subcontractors. It took her 9 months to clear $18,000 in side income on her own. It would have taken you 4 minutes to hand it to her. You've thought about that decision more than almost any other you've made. An unstructured check would have solved March. It wouldn't have solved the 20 Marches after it. Money handed over doesn't teach a hand how to hold a wrench. It just teaches a hand to ask again. What Megan needed wasn't relief. It was a machine of her own. The number arrived the way it always did, quietly, and on a Thursday. Your accountant, a soft-spoken man named Grover Aldis, who has done your taxes since the vending route was 11 machines, sent a 1-line email in early spring. Consolidated statement attached. Take a look when you get a chance. No subject line flourish, no congratulations. Just a PDF sitting between a reminder about a storage unit insurance renewal and a coupon for an oil change you'd already scheduled. You opened it standing in the kitchen, still in the same boots you'd worn checking the pressure washing crew's second job that morning. 41 properties and equipment lines across 7 asset categories: vending, laundry, parking, billboard, service, self-storage you'd added at 39, and a small string of car washes you picked up 2 years ago from a man who just wanted to fish in retirement. Net worth, $14,020,000. You read it twice. You did not feel the way movies had trained you to expect. There was no music. The refrigerator hummed the way it always hummed. Outside, through the window, the Tacoma sat in the driveway with its check engine light presumably still on because you hadn't gotten around to it, because you never really did. You thought about Carl Dietz's Econoline van and the smell of stale Fritos. You thought about the sign on that first machine, "Out of order, sorry," and how many hundreds of people must have walked past it before you were the one who stopped. You forwarded the email to no one. You didn't post anything, didn't tell Dale Pruitt, who you occasionally still saw at chamber events, still scanning rooms for someone worth his time, still 4 seconds from looking past you. You called Megan instead, not to tell her the number, but to ask how the pressure washing side of things was going. She said business was steady. You said that was good. That was the whole conversation. Later that night you drove to get gas, in the Tacoma, in the same boots, and the kid behind the counter didn't look up from his phone. Maybe that's the real question underneath it all. If no one could see what you'd built, would you still have chosen to build it?